what, just like everyone struggled with the internet long before you were born, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean the internet? Like, what do you mean buying stuff? Like all the stuff that we went through. Most people don't understand the concept of owning something digitally.
Right.
You're aware of what's happening with it, like it's kind of happening?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it, just don't know
the biggest reason that it's hard to understand is it's built on the blockchain, not the internet. And so like that in itself is what, just like everyone struggled with the internet long before you were born, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean the internet? Like, what do you mean buying stuff? Like all the stuff that we went through. Most people don't understand the concept of owning something digitally.
Right.
Like you couldn't do that on the internet. And now you can, and it can be proved, and you can't right click it and save it and all the jokes that people make, and it will happen. And so, but what's interesting about it is every NFT is actually, has the ability to also be a contract. By nature it's a contract, I own this is mine. But you can do more things on it. So for example, influencers I think are gonna really create collectibles and pieces of art that also underneath in the contract have access, whether virtually or in person. So all of a sudden the cliche meet and greet that used to have a price point or autograph or things of that nature can now be sold as an NFT to even be the pass instead of a QR code or a bracelet or an email confirmation. But what's different is, okay, cool, so now you do an appearance and the tickets are an NFT. Where it gets crazy is, okay, so that happens, and sure, somebody could have paid you $20 for a confirmation email with a QR code, or be on the list, or they buy a $20 NFT and then they connect and they prove that it's them and they come in. It's what happens after the fact. After the fact, that ticket is a digital trading card. So if somebody then sells that for $50 or $1,000 or $1 or $1 million, you as the issuer of the NFT are getting a royalty.
Okay.
So what NFTs does is puts everybody basically into the music business where they get royalties, except the economics for the human are so much greater than they were when somebody would sign a record deal. You're getting all of it or the majority of it instead of a small sliver of it. So think of the NFT less as a piece of art or a collectible, because you may not want your face on a collectible. Like you could want it, you might not want it, both are fine. It's more of what does it trigger? It can represent something else, and that's the biggest economics to an influencer. I mean, the you in 7 years, like exploding in a year, NFT infrastructure is gonna make Spotlight and brand deals look amateur hour, financially as a business.
Wow.
Other than, being a model and a comedian in early Instagram was a better advantage than being a publisher. Being a writer on blogging was better than a TV personality type was better on YouTube. On Twitter, quick wit or short communicator was better. Vine was like super micro comedian. Like every time there's a platform, there's almost like a different skill set required. With NFTs, the influencer has to be incredibly focused on bringing value forever to the community around that NFT, which is a huge challenge because most influencers are transactional. And there's a lot more business strategy to launching a successful NFT project. But the economics are dramatically more interesting than anything else that an influencer can do. So thinking about like, what is it? Like, and then reverse engineering the human being. I love the idea of getting on Zoom with 100 of my fans and doing Q&A for an hour, but I don't think that makes me nice or special when another personality doesn't, because they may be more introverted or their creative process is different, or that might be too draining or too chaotic. There is no wrong or right. There's just what are you, and then reverse engineering it in project form. Right? Like, it might be scary for you to do physical meet and greets, right? As a younger woman, like that I won't think about. That's okay. That's just the reality of, but you may love cooking and you want to go into that realm and you decide your NFT project's around that, and that gives everybody access to the virtual cooking with you. So it's an avenue for expansion outside of what you represent today for NFT form as well. So that's another thing to think about. You know,
Okay.
being first is all relative too.
Right.
Like how you two defined being first on those platforms. Like we were in the beta on that
Yeah.
and saw who was there. So like, you know, like I think someone can consider themselves first if they jump on YouTube Shorts today.
That's
It's just still early,
It is still early.
right? You know, so, you know, I think, you know, I had 1 million followers on Musical.ly before it was TikTok.
Yeah.
So like what is first, I think is a great mentality, but remember that the two of you are the subjective judge and jury on whether
Yeah.
you were first or not.
Yep.
NFTs, are you first? I mean, there's a trillion
Right.
projects out there, but 99% of the world doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
So you can be first. I think forget about first a little bit, even though it's so much of the identity. Like that to me is a good strategy more than I think the two of you should think of it as an identity.
Okay.
Because what's gonna really matter is best for community.
Right.
It's great to always be first.
Yeah.
It's my career.
Yeah.
But I wasn't first on Instagram because it was too much about photography for the first 2 years. And then I got busy with VaynerMedia. But when I decided to get serious about Instagram 7 years in, 6 years in, whatever the math is, I did it better. And so I was able to still be majorly successful. I think don't underestimate that aspect of it as your identity gets formed on it. And then really, really think about best for community. Like what's in it for them?
Right. Connecting with.
Yeah,
the
like
audience.
literally every single thing you do, like forget about even like that kind of like the cliche, like forget about like that sentence, like truly the mentality of like, why is this good for them? And that could be the lightest weight mundane thing because they think I'm pretty smart, this is access to the sidelines. It can be anything. But if you always think about that, you've got real chance for longevity. That's because YouTube is built on decades now at this point of subscriber DNA, even more so for TikTok, the concept of following an account is much more foreign because your For You is doing it for you. Like literally doing it for you. So as you know, you and your contemporaries are just not as fast, even if they think something's awesome, to be like, oh, I'm gonna follow this person, even less than Instagram or Twitter. Because the For You's doing the work. Whereas in YouTube culture, the psychology of that same kid is I like this room, this game, this world is so built on subscribe. You've got 16 years of almost every creator on the platform yelling subscribe in video form, in their long form, which has created the subconscious behavior, which is why you're seeing such a high conversion rate to subscribe on YouTube Shorts. Sorry to interrupt, but in the macro, like Gronk and Mahomes and Aoki, like did better with their NFT projects by being February and March.
Yeah.
First always has some value. And in social media world, to your point, a lot of value because you gather audience that tends to stay.
Right.
NFT life can be very long-term if you think about doing things that are for the long term. The problem is most humans are looking at it as transactional. I'm selling something, which is the mindset of influencer. The reality is most influencers make their money on brand deals, and those are transactional behaviors. Today, I'm gonna talk about this coffee. Right? Whereas if you're gonna do an NFT project, the great fear is people spend $800 for something and then it's not a priority for you to see it through and it goes down in value or it doesn't provide them value, and that's bad. When I decided to do VeeFriends, it was like, fuck, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. Otherwise, people are gonna lose. That's very different than just being on the receiving end of it. Them losing in branded content form is, oh, I don't wanna see her ad, I swipe. Not, I'm paying $900 for a token.
Right.